For centuries, the Leviathan has been a figure of awe and fear, emerging from the deep recesses of the world's oceans in the lore of various religions. It's time to embark on a journey to explore the Leviathan's origins, its symbolic power in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, and how this mighty creature has influenced the mythologies and theologies that shape our understanding of the cosmos. This is the Jewish Leviathan. For generations, humans have been telling stories, tales, and legends about creatures found all around the world. From the griffin to the chupacabra, and from the Leviathan to the Chinese dragon. It's high time we set out an adventure to learn about them all. This is an expedition for the mythological. Welcome to Mytho Safari. Our exploration begins in the sacred texts of Judaism, where the Leviathan first slithered into human consciousness. The Hebrew Bible, specifically the Tanakh, is the oldest source of Leviathan lore, depicting it as a monstrous sea serpent created by God. The Leviathan is mentioned in several books of the Bible, but most notably in the book of Job, the Psalms, and Isaiah. Please make sure that you subscribe and turn on the notifications for our channel. Becoming a member on Mytho Safari is one of the best ways to support us so we can continue making this amazing content for you. Please check out the link in the description below to supporting our channel. Let's continue. In the book of Job, the Leviathan is described with an awe-inspiring imagery.
Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? Will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? Who can strip off its outer coat? Who can penetrate its double coat of armor? Who dares open the doors of its mouth, ringed about with its fearsome teeth? Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between.
The Leviathan here is a symbol of God's uncontested power. It embodies chaos and is beyond the control of humans, reminding them the limits of their power, but it also reflects God's mastery over creation. Only the divine would be able to subdue such a beast. This animal, this creature, Leviathan, has been theorized through the ages to be a dragon, a sea serpent, a whale. The modern Hebrew word for whale is Leviathan, which comes directly from the word Leviathan. That's the actual English, Romanized, Greek, Latinified translation of Leviathan. In Psalms, the Leviathan is celebrated as a creature that God alone can control.
There go the ships, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein.
This verse presents a more playful, less terrifying aspect of Leviathan, suggesting that even this mighty creature is subject to the will of God, existing in the divine order as part of God's creation. Isaiah's depiction of Leviathan, however, returns to a more menacing tone, prophesizing its ultimate demise.
In that day that the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword, Leviathan, the gliding serpent, Leviathan, the coiling serpent, he will slay the monster of the sea.
Here, the Leviathan symbolizes the forces of chaos and evil, which will be vanquished at the end of days. This eschatological role of the Leviathan foreshadows its transformation in later religious traditions. Jewish rabbinical literature, especially the Midrash and the Talmud, expands on the biblical accounts of the Leviathan, adding layers of symbolism and allegory. According to these texts, the Leviathan was one of the creatures created on the fifth day of creation, back in Genesis. However, recognizing the danger of allowing such a powerful creature to roam free, God is said to have killed the female Leviathan to prevent the species from multiplying and overwhelming the world. The Midrash also tells of a grand feast at the end of days, where the righteous will dine on the flesh of the Leviathan. This feast symbolizes the ultimate triumph of good over evil and the reward of the faithful. In this context, the Leviathan represents not just chaos, but also a source of sustenance and blessing for the righteous in the world to come. The Talmud, a central text in Rabbinic Judaism, also provides a fascinating tale about the Leviathan. It describes the Leviathan as so enormous that its scales could cover the entire sea, and its breath could boil the waters. The Talmudic sages use the Leviathan to discuss the themes of divine justice and the mysteries of creation, often emphasizing the creature's uncontrollable nature to highlight God's omnipotence. As Christianity emerged from its Jewish roots, it inherited and reinterpreted many of the Jewish myths and symbols, including the Leviathan. Leviathan. Early Christian writers often equated the Leviathan with Satan or evil itself. It was seen as a very dark spirit, and in this way, the Leviathan became more than just a sea monster. It was a representation of the adversarial forces that opposed God. There's something to remember in comparison between Christian and Jewish faith. Christianity definitely stems from Judaism, but has misinterpreted and warped many Jewish beliefs. For example, one of the most popular is the idea of heaven and hell. In Judaism, there aren't strict concepts of heaven and hell, while there are in Christianity, like hellfire and burning in hell. Atoning for one's sins through the belief of Jesus Christ is not a concept that exists in the Jewish faith, and therefore it's always important to remember that Leviathan maybe didn't symbolize a sea monster or a dark force, rather just a symbol of God's ferocity and strength, rather than seen in a negative light that the Christian context later gave it. This isn't a condemnation of Christianity, just an interpretation that came about when the Christian faith started catching fire. One of the most notable references to the Leviathan in Christian tradition comes from the book of Revelation, where the great beast of the sea is depicted as one of the agents of the apocalypse. Although the term Leviathan is not used explicitly, the imagery echoes that of the Old Testament.
And I saw a beast rising out of the sea, with 10 horns and 7 hands, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its head. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave its power and its throne and great authority.
In medieval Christian thought, the Leviathan continued to symbolize the devil or forces of evil. Thomas Aquinas, in his Summa Theologica, describes that the Leviathan as a demon of envy and the ruler of children of pride. The theological interpretation placed the Leviathan squarely in the realm of moral allegory, representing sin and the struggle against it. Artistic representation from the Middle Ages often depicted the Leviathan as a massive serpent or dragon, drawing upon the biblical descriptions in pagan mythology. These depictions reinforce the Leviathan's role as a symbol of chaos and destruction, which will ultimately be overcome by Christ at the end of days. The Leviathan also finds echoes in Islamic tradition, where the Quran and the Hadiths, though not mentioning it by name, it referred to a similar creature of the deep. Islamic texts speak of monstrous sea creatures like Bahamut or the Nun, which are sometimes linked to the Leviathan. The Bahamut is a giant fish that resides in the deep and is so large the world rests on its back. It is often depicted as a part of the cosmological structure in Islamic mythology, holding up the earth. This imagery is reminiscent of the Leviathan as a creature of the deep, embodying the unknowable and unfathomable aspects of the world. Islamic eschatology also speaks of great beasts that will emerge at the end of time. Similar to the Leviathan's apocalyptic role in Christian traditions, these creatures, like the Daba, serves as a sign of the coming judgment and the ultimate triumph of divine justice. In Sufism, the Leviathan-like creatures are sometimes used metaphorically to describe the soul's journey through the perils and chaos of the material world. Seeking unity with the divine, this aligns with the mystical interpretations of the Leviathan in Jewish Kabbalistic texts, where the creature's chaotic nature represents the spiritual struggles that precede enlightenment. Over time, the Leviathan has evolved from a specific creature in ancient religious texts to a broader symbol of chaos, evil, and the unknown. Its journey across Jewish, Christian, and then Islamic traditions reflects how different cultures and religions grapple with the concepts of creation, destruction, and divine power. In medieval Jewish mysticism, particularly in Kabbalistic thought, the Leviathan represents the klipot, the shells or the husks of impurity that encase the divine light. Here, the Leviathan's chaotic nature is not merely destructive, but is also necessary part of the divine plan, as the struggle against these forces leads to spiritual growth and redemption. In Christian symbolism, the Leviathan became intertwined with the imagery of hell and the devil. Dante's Inferno famously describes hell as being guarded by monstrous creatures, reminiscent of the Leviathan, which served to punish the damned. This depiction continued into Renaissance art and literature, where the Leviathan was often portrayed as a terrifying sea monster, symbolizing the dangers of sin and the devil's power over the souls of men. Islamic tradition, while less focused on the Leviathan specifically, uses similar creatures to discuss the themes of the cosmic order and divine justice. The Bahamut, which may be similar to Leviathan, serve as a reminder of the vastness of God's creation and the limits of human understanding. These creatures are not just symbols of chaos, but also the divine mysteries that are beyond the human comprehension. In the modern day, the Leviathan's influence extends beyond religious texts and has permeated modern culture in various forms. In literature, it has been reimagined in the works like Herman Melville's Moby Dick, where the great white whale serves as a Leviathan-like symbol of the unknown and the uncontrollable forces of nature. In contemporary fantasy literature and games, the Leviathan often appears as a powerful sea monster or dragon, drawing on its mythological roots. These modern retellings continue to emphasize the themes of chaos, power, and the struggle between good and evil, showing the enduring appeal of the Leviathan as a symbol. The Leviathan has also been appropriated by political and philosophical discourse. Thomas Hobbes famously titled his 1651 treatise on social contract theory Leviathan, using this image of the monstrous sea creature as a metaphor for the state. In Hobbes' view, the Leviathan represents the collective power and authority of society, necessary to maintain order and prevent chaos of the state of nature. This political usage of Leviathan underscores its symbolism as both a protector and a threat, depending on how it's wielded. In environmental discourse, the Leviathan has also been used to describe the vast and often destructive power of the ocean. As humanity has become more aware of the environmental impacts of industrialization and climate change, in conclusion, the Leviathan is a figure that has captivated the human imagination for millennia. Its journey through Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions reflect the ways in which different cultures and religions have grappled with these concepts. And starting from the humble pages of the Hebrew Bible, ideas of the Enlightenment, the Leviathan has served as a symbol of the uncontrollable forces that shape our world. Whether as a representation of the devil, a metaphor for the state, or a symbol of the natural world's power, the Leviathan continues to inspire awe and reflection. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the universe and depths on our own understanding, the Leviathan remains a powerful reminder of the vastness and complexity of the world we inhabit. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you subscribe and turn on those notifications. One of the best ways to support our channel is becoming a member and financially supporting us. It's the only way that we can continue making this amazing content that we do on here. And we'll see you guys in the next safari. Goodbye.